What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Reality Kingdom, where we put the real in reality, and we got the
Period.
realest nigga on the podcast, Ty.
Go, Tys here. Let's go.
The
Ty, the
winner
winner.
of BB Can 11.
Period.
Yes, sir. We here. We here. Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, shoot. Let's get right into it. First of all, congratulations on your win. You ate that shit the fuck up. I just want to ask you, how are you feeling now that you won the game? You played, you won, you're out of the house, you get time to decompress, you get time to see, everything. So how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Of course, I'm proud of myself. I'm happy about the win. But it was never about, obviously everybody goes there to try to win, but it wouldn't have made or break or broken me if I didn't win. Right? I knew that I had a plan past this show, and my goal going into this was just to make sure that my presence was felt as a player, and that once I left the house, that I had a platform to leverage, to make the money, to make the moves, to have the opportunities open up for me. So like I said, it didn't really matter. The money didn't matter to me, and I made that known throughout the show to everybody. I don't care about the money. I want to make sure that the moves I'm making are gonna help me leverage myself and my name outside of this, because all of us have this great opportunity right now. And unfortunately, only two people can win some money at the end, right? So there's 16 people in the house. Only two of those people will actually have some cash at the end. So the other 14 have to figure out, how do I leverage this opportunity to do more? And that's where my mindset was, because the chances of anybody winning are extremely low. So if you don't have a game plan afterwards, it's kind of for nothing. It's like, yeah, you have a cool moment on TV, but then what? You're gonna fade away after. So with all that said, like I said, I'm grateful. I'm happy. I'm proud of myself for pushing through all the adversity that I did, and then ultimately winning the show. Right? I won't downplay that, but yeah, I'm already thinking about what's next.
Yeah. I feel like we definitely see that in the gameplay. Like you were there to play, and like you have to respect that on a certain level. And I want to say, because of course, like your win is very monumental and historic for multiple reasons. And I just love, especially towards the end, how you use your competition ability to essentially control that jury phase to get you to final three. Going in, did you think that was going to be the winning strategy? Did you think that you would have to end up basically, go balls to the wall, you're back against it, end up winning in this way?
No, I mean, my game plan, I was very flexible going in. I obviously had to kind of read what was going on in the house, who was there, who I naturally gravitated towards in terms of working with them. But that entire first half where, like, Zach was in the house, I didn't mind kind of taking a step back and throwing competitions, because if it pushed along our strategy and what we were trying to accomplish that week, I didn't care to win that week. I cared about making it to the end as far as possible with Zach. And like I said, making my presence felt in whatever capacity that needed to be. If I needed to be a comp beast, then I'll be a comp beast. If I need to be playing my social game, and again, my social game is something that's up in the air because people didn't really understand it, but nonetheless, I know what my social game was and where my strengths lie. I would play that game as well. So going in, I just wanted to see who I gravitated towards, what their strengths and weaknesses were, and then figure out how we complement each other. I didn't really have a set game plan going in, but I did know that if I had to turn it up in comps, then I would do it, and that's what I showed.
Period. I feel like it's interesting that you mentioned your set relationships, because you had a really good relationship with Zach. And we saw that the week that Zach left was very pivotal. That whole week was really pivotal to your game. And it changed it. It shifted your whole game. So I wanted to ask, what was going through your mind that week, knowing he was going, that Zach was leaving? You almost quit, allegedly. So I want to ask, did you really want to quit? And also, what was going through your mind throughout the week?
Yeah, so that entire situation obviously stems from Lettergate. I don't know if you guys understand. I mean, you guys, and again, I just see what people are saying. And I've already talked to Hope about this. I said, honestly, bro, if I do interviews, people are going to ask about Lettergate. Do you mind if I talk about it? So he's cool with me talking about it because we've already had our personal conversations, and he now sees my perspective on why me and Zach felt the way we did. So I'll quickly break that down to you. And like I said, this is by no means to bash Hope or whatever. He had his perspective, which I now understand because we had a conversation, and he understands mine now. So a long story short, Hope was having a rough couple of weeks before that. He was rubbing a lot of people the wrong way in the house. And it was me and Zach basically vouching for him, saying, guys, just give him a chance. Like, he's young, he has a lot of energy, but if you get to know him on a personal level, you're going to love him. And Johnny was one of the people that really disliked him at first. He's like, bro, either Hope has to go or I'm self-evicting. And me, I stepped in and I said, bro, Johnny, just take a second. I know you're frustrated, but just talk to Hope, and I'm telling you, you're going to love him. Of course, I pulled him in the room myself, and I say, here, you guys sit down and talk. After that, these guys are like this. So I'm like, great. I'm mending things between the guys that I'm trying to work with. Hope is not going to be a number one target for everyone, because I liked Hope. That's my guy. I still love him. And then what happened was, I was shown a letter at some point in the game. Okay, so between that happening and the letter being shown to me, Hope was like, man, I don't know if I can do this. I miss home. I miss my girl. I'm like, bro, I understand, but you have a great opportunity right now. I don't want you to throw it away. But if you do find yourself wanting to leave the game because it's too much for you, just give me enough heads up so that if you're going to leave, whether you do a self-eviction or we put you on the block and you go home, that I can set us up so that we're not losing a number and making ourselves vulnerable. So that's where the whole line that I will line him up, that's where it came from. I said, bro, just let me know and I'll line you up so that you can leave and we're still safe. Okay, so that's what lined me up meant. So fast forward now, he shows me the letter. He's like, bro, I need you to line me up. Okay, so this means he's had time to think and he's not making a rash decision. Like, he's just having a bad day or nothing. He's been having time to think about actually leaving. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to be a man of my word and I will line you up to go home in the safest way possible. I read the letter, I come back and say, I got you. So I hand him back the letter. Cool. I get that. And that's the same day that I got selected to play in the Brita competition, the POV. Okay. And unbeknownst to me, he already showed this letter to Zach the week prior. Okay. And that was, again, on a day where Zach was playing in a POV. And I didn't know about the letter at this time because I wasn't playing in that POV. I was playing in the Brita. So he showed me on the same day. So I'm like, okay. I pulled Zach in right before the competition. I said, bro, let's throw the comp to Hope. What I didn't want, because at that point, Hope was throwing himself on the block week by week, trying to get a win. I'm like, bro, I'm not going to let my guy leave the house without a win. And on top of that, there was money on the line. I'm like, bro, this is a perfect opportunity. Hope gets to go home. He's happy because he doesn't want to be here. He gets to leave with a win, and he's going to have $5,000 in his pocket. So, like I said, I told Zach, let's throw this comp to make sure that Hope's good. We threw the comp. Hope wins. And then after the comp, everything's fine. Hope's like, yo, I'm going to do whatever you want me to do with the veto. I'm like, perfect. Like, we have nothing to worry about. Then last second, out of nowhere, he's like, I think I'm going to use the veto on myself. I'm like, bro, where is this coming from? So that's where the disconnect was, because we knew what that meant. If Hope pulled himself off, I knew Zach was going up. So that's where I got frustrated with him. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you knew what the plan was. And at this time, he didn't know I threw the comp because, like, it was just me and Zach knew that we threw it. Because I didn't want Hope to go home, watch the show back, and then see that we threw the comp and it wasn't a real win. I wanted him to really feel accomplished and like he did something before he left. Like, that was me looking out for this guy. Like, he's my little brother. You know what I mean? So that's why I was hurt about it. I took it personal. I'm like, damn, like, how are you just going to backstab us like that? Like, you really played us. You used a letter from the outside world to manipulate the way we were thinking about this game. You know what I mean? Which is why we felt the way we did. Sorry, I'm going on a rant right now, but yeah. I'm trying to give you guys the real, like, the whole perspective of it. Like, me and Zach were genuinely hurt. It wasn't like a vengeance thing in the game. It was more so like, damn, you really play with our emotions and like, and jeopardized our game too. Because realistically speaking, because we didn't tell on him about the letter, we could have got in trouble. You know what I mean? So it's like, we were trying to look out for our guy and say, like, you know, you can have a clean cut from the game, have your money, have your win, and then we can just keep pushing forward together and not risk what I have going on. So, like I said, fast forward, once Zach realized like there was no getting himself off the block and like getting the votes for him to stay, we're like, man, like, this is so unfair. And just the way the show handled the situation, they felt like giving letters to everybody would have rectified the situation. When in fact, it really just made Hope look like a hero, and it made us look like the assholes. Like, we're trying to tell him, we're like, bro, like, this is so unfair. So I understand Zach's perspective in terms of wanting to leave the game because ultimately he was the one that ended up on the block, right? But Zach being my guy, my final two, I'm like, bro, I felt a way about it too. I'm like, bro, like, this is so fucked up. I don't know if I want to keep playing this game knowing that I'm taking such a big hit to my overall strategy. So I genuinely was considering it, but it was just strictly off the loyalty to my guy, Zach. And I'm sure you guys see clips of me walking around in the DR. I'm just trying to figure out, man, like, it's just a battle between me being loyal to Zach and me, like, my pride. I'm like, am I going to let these guys literally kick out the two most dominant players in the house right now with no work being done? So I told Zach, I'm like, bro, like, just give me some time to think. And, you know, I had the letter from my mom and I read it. She's like, you know, one of the biggest joys in her life is watching me play the game. Then at that time, me and Claudia had our little showman starting to bubble up. So I'm like, man, do I want to give that up as well? But then, like, the biggest thing was, like, my pride. I'm like, bro, I cannot go out and let these kids think that he took me out like that. So I'm like, all right, well, let me go back in there and start bodying these guys. And that's what happened.
And you won.
So I did what I had to do, you know. And at the end of the day, it was like me and Zach were a two-man team. We were the shot callers, and it was the last shot caller that was standing at the end of the day. So
okay,
I think definitely hearing the story, it makes sense because at the end of the day, this season without live feeds, like, we had to go based off what the edit showed us. And then also, I feel like it makes sense for what you're saying now, because I remember when you said, I have this, like, backup plan, and your backup plan was telling Hope, you know, he needs him to use the veto. It's like you knew prior to that he was down to do it. And I feel like all of us watching, we were confused because, like, why would Ty expect Hope to do that? But it makes sense if he had basically already agreed.
That's what I'm saying. You know, when people, and there's, you know, they're making reference to the whole line me up thing. People didn't understand what that meant.
No,
only me and Hope knew that because we talked about it like previously.
Yeah.
They're talking about cocaine and all. I'm like, what are you guys talking about?
Right.
We thought it was a haircut at least. We was
no,
like,
yeah, and that's what I
it's
said.
not-
You see me? I'm like, you want a haircut? Because I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding
Right.
what he's telling me right now.
Mhm.
So I'm like, you need me to cut your hair? He's like, no, bro, I need you to line. Like he's reinforcing what he's telling me. I'm like, okay, so you made your mind up. So that's why I'm like, all right, bro, I got you. But yeah, so like that's the overall kind of breakdown of that situation. And I just felt like if people, like you said, if live feeds are up and people really saw the situation in its entirety, production wouldn't have been able to make me and Zach look like the villains the way they did, because we really and genuinely truly were trying to like look out for this guy the entire time, and it was just that one decision that he made that made us like the biggest piece of shit on earth, right? So
yeah, I feel you. It's good to like hear your perspective about it. Like I had a conversation here with Zach too, and me and Zach, we kind of like we went back and forth about it. Like I was really like getting into it. So it's interesting to hear, everybody's perspective about it, your perspective on it too, because it really like explains it when instead it could have just been the edit that they showed. So it's good to hear your genuine like your perspective on it. I did want to ask you, because like when I spoke to Zach, he mentioned how you and him kind of both wanted to play the game logically, and you said it too in the game, and kind of like leave your emotions out of it. So I wanted to ask, throughout the game, you did have social connections. Yeah. And it's like, do you feel like that was still not necessarily an emotional way to play the game? And do you feel like your game was mostly logical? Or could you explain more about the social connections you had? Because people don't understand.
For sure. So for me, it's like I like to say that I'm not an emotional person, but really speaking, I know I am. You know what I mean? I put on this cold kind of front, but I care a lot about people. And it's like, and I told Zach this too, like when we went into the house, I'm like, bro, I honestly don't care who I work with, as long as I trust the person and I like them. I don't care if you're the biggest comp beast. I don't care if you have the strongest social game. We will figure it out as long as I know I can trust you. And if I turn my back on you for a second, you're not stabbing me in my back. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's what me and Zach had. We would talk for like 10 seconds in the morning, and then we'd talk for 10 seconds at night. And I didn't care what he was doing throughout the day. I know he wasn't turning on me, and he felt the same way about me. That was the kind of trust that we had. And those are the people I wanted to play the game with. Right. So yeah, I mean, in terms of my social game, I knew that everybody else I couldn't necessarily trust, because you start to see people gravitating towards each other. And then on top of that, you hear, the rumors or the murmurs of the boys happening, right? So we already know we're becoming a target. And with that, I had to stay close with the guys, because if we start turning on each other, then it's basically like we're taking each other out, which is ultimately what happened, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, it was like my social game came down to what I knew my strengths were. I'm not a big, like when people hear a social player, they think about someone who's extroverted and who is able to walk into a room and work the room. They think of Zach. Zach's a great social player in the most traditional sense. But for me, I'm a great social player when I can talk to somebody on a one-to-one basis and really like get into an intimate conversation with them, because they see a different side of Ty that was not shown on TV. Because I was just this cold-faced guy, this asshole when he gets upset, and I get it. But the reason why Claudia was able to push through those things is because she knows me on a personal level. The reason why Renee was able to overlook me putting her on the block and trying to get to a final 3 with me is because she knows me on a personal level. All these people know me. And Jonathan, I got his vote because he knows me on a personal level. You know what I mean? So same thing with like, a lot of people, once they're able to sit down with me on a one-on-one, they can start seeing past the noise and what people are saying about me and how I come off, because like I said, I come off as cold, but they know that I have depth to me, and they can respect that, and they know that I can be vulnerable. You know what I mean? So that was my strength in terms of being vulnerable, showing people that there's a human inside of this shell. You know what I mean? That I would look out for you whenever I can. And same thing with Anika. It kind of hurt me at the end when she was blaming it on me and had all this stuff to say, apparently. Because I'm like, man, I saved you twice, including at a critical time where I could have kept you on the block and Claudia would have been happy to send you home. You know what I mean? So yeah, my strength in terms of my social game was just being able to connect with people on an intimate level in a one-on-one situation, which unfortunately was not shown or highlighted on the show. So I get why people think I have no social game as well.
Yeah. I feel like if you're like a real fan though, you can kind of like read between the lines, because like, I mean, it's impressive the fact that twice in a row you avoided being put up to be able to win the veto and control those HOHs and then get taken the final 3. You can't ignore it. Like those were very specific relationships that got you to position to win the game. So
and that's also something else where like I can understand why Anika might have been upset, is because from what I've heard, she went into the DR after I had lied to Claudia and said, Claudia's brainless or whatever. And then I did the same thing to her the next week. So she felt silly. It was almost like a shot to her pride that I just did the same move on her that I did prior to keep her safe. So.
She said it herself in the TV edit. She was like, "CC is so dumb for that," but it's like, "Girl,
That's
you
what
did
I'm
the
saying.
same thing."
Exactly, but see that goes to my social game. It's just like I was able to get people to trust me.
Yeah.
At critical times in their game where it could literally blow their entire game up, they trusted me.
Yep.
So that doesn't speak to how I'm able to connect with people and how I'm able to make them feel. Then I don't know what more I could do to show people that my social game is there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, hey. I mean, he's feeling. He's feeling.
Yeah.
I also, because definitely here at the Reality Kingdom, we're definitely centered around uplifting POC voices. So I wanted to ask specifically with you. We see you day one made a really good connection with Koozie. You wanted to protect her in the mall, and we've seen conversations where you spoke about wanting a diverse winner to represent multiple people. Like, how does it feel? You're the second Black winner in Canada, 4th overall.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Like, you're making history. Like, another one.
It feels amazing. Like that was a huge thing for me. Even the way I dress, like I said, wear my do-rags and stuff. I wanted my people who come from where I come from to see themselves in me on the big screen doing their thing, being themselves. And I wasn't fake. Like I said though, I told 3 lies in that game. When I had to tell Rob that we're not gunning for him, I had to execute that. And I lied to Claudia saying I would save Chanel, and then I lied to Anika saying I would not save Claudia. You know what I mean? But the rest of the game, which is like over 2 months, I was being as honest and truthful as possible, and look where it got me on the block week by week by week. Right? So it's like, the more honest I was, the worse my position came. So I had to start saying things that I knew the truth. And like, realistically speaking, I don't know if Claudia genuinely thought that I would save Chanel. I have to talk to her about it, because there's no way you're gonna come to me and ask me to save Chanel, but you know how I feel about it, right? So like, even in that clip where she's in the bathroom with me, I'm like, there's no way you're asking me for that. I'm hugging her, I'm like, there's no way you're not putting me up right now, because you know what I'm gonna do with it, right? But yeah, nonetheless, it's just like, it feels great to be, able to represent the people that see themselves in me. So all the noise about people, hating on me and saying I'm this, that, or third, it doesn't faze me at the end of the day, because I know what I came in here to represent, and I want to show, and like I said, my people that I care about are showing me the utmost love, and like, it's pouring into my phone. Like, I can't even keep up with all the messages. So I'm happy that people who I wanted to connect with have connected with me.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that people honestly miss, because I saw in your preseason how you mentioned you wanted to win so you can use the money to also help with the charity. You're a charitable person. And you want to give back to your community. Can you speak more about like what you plan on doing with the money to help your community?
Of course. So like, even right now, I'm talking to one of my good friends to kind of come up with some ideas. In the past, I've donated to my elementary school. I gave backpacks to the entire graduating grade 5 class. So I can't speak right now. To make sure they had backpacks, school supplies, whatever they needed. Transitioning into middle school. I've done charities for Christmas time, Thanksgiving, all types of stuff. So I'm just trying to figure out what the next step is, because I want my charity to have a lasting impact. I don't want it to be like a one-time drop off and then I gotta wait till next year. I'm trying to start something where it's like, it's a program, for example, where I can work with kids and like teach them about financial literacy, about business, marketing, mental health, all types of stuff that I think that is gonna last throughout the year. You know what I mean? Things that they can take with them throughout their life. So I'm talking to my friend right now. We're brainstorming, and now that I have the funding, and obviously I'm gonna have opportunities to kind of connect with brands that can help fund even more. We're trying to figure out something that's gonna have and leave a real lasting impact.
Yes, sir. That's like really amazing, because it really shows like actions speak louder than words. Like, people have a lot of stuff to say about you and like your character and stuff, but at the end of the day, what you're doing, the impact that you're having, it's greater than all of that. So it's just, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate that you're choosing to do that, because a lot of people, they win the game, they don't even think of it.
Do nothing.
They're not even thinking of it. You were thinking of it before you won. And you're gonna act on it. So that's honestly amazing.
Thank you guys. It means a lot to me, honestly.
Yeah, and like, I wanted to ask, because throughout the game, your game was tied a lot with Claudia. You bring her up, and she was important to your game. So I wanted to ask you about like the back and forthness of your relationship when it came to the double eviction and the situation that happened there at the final 3. She took you, So it's like, with the TV edit that we got, we couldn't really understand. We couldn't, and without the live feeds, it didn't make sense, honestly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, like, your perspective. Why do you think it ended up that way, and like, how do you really feel about that whole thing, the whole situation?
Yeah. So obviously, the truth is, me and Claudia have had a very rocky situation throughout the house. That's undeniable. But I think there's always been a level of respect there. Like, she respects me as a person and a player, and I respect her as a person and a player. So even though our games weren't necessarily aligning at some point, it didn't mean that we had to be enemies in the game or, on a personal level. yeah, she put me on the block, but she did it in a respectful way. She came to me and told me, like, I'm going to put you on the block, but I would much rather prefer that because it gives me an opportunity to fight, whereas she could have tried to backdoor me and she didn't do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it might have looked stupid from a gameplay perspective, but it just goes to show the respect that she has for me. She's like, bro, if you can fight your way back into this game, then you deserve to be here. And she knew I deserved to be there. You know what I mean? Just like I knew that she deserved to be in that game. So when it came to the final three situation, we've, like, obviously a big long time, but we've had multiple conversations about if we were to make final three, I would take you 100%. I don't care who else is in the house. I'm taking Claudia. Mm-hmm. Claudia has proven herself as a comp beast. She's been able to create great relationships in the house. So she's shown that she's able to play this game. And I would be happy for somebody like her to represent our season. There's players in this that made it very far in the game that I would not be proud to say that person is going to be representing our season, because there's so many powerhouses on the social side and the comp side that would have been more deserving. I don't want to say names because I'm not trying to take shots at anybody, right. But there's people that, like I said, have drifted away to very far in the game that I would not be happy to say I was on season 11 and this person is representing us. But Claudia is not one of those people. She's a beast, you know, very underestimated. Like, people are bashing her for taking a guy. It's like, she was so confident in her game that she was not scared to stand beside me. She didn't want an easy win. Mm-hmm. That was something we connected on. She didn't want an easy win. She wanted to be respected as a player, as a female on top of that, standing beside the arguably the best male player in the house. Mm-hmm. So I respected that. And at the time, I was like, bro, she was the next best player to me, I felt. So I would have definitely taken her to a final two if the roles were reversed. So like I said, just like the respect on a personal and game level has always been there, whether or not we were actually playing the game together. And I'm actually spending time with her now. She just stepped out to go shopping, but we're still together. So everyone's saying that, you know, she's just hung up over this guy and she's not thinking straight, and, you know, Tys gonna ditch her after the show. Like, mm-hmm. We're still here. We're still having a great time. We're getting to know each other outside of this game in the real world now, right? Because in the house is a bubble, and we had great feelings in the bubble, but now we're trying to explore what's gonna happen past that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I love that. I think this kind of bleeds into my next question, because honestly, a lot of the negative perception, if we're being honest, about you came from the edit between you and Claudia on television. You know what I mean? There's gonna be people who sees it like, well, we're gonna take Claudia's side in this. And because, like you said, you were the villain for the TV edit. Like, whether you think you're actually the villain or not, that was what you were for the TV edit. Coming out of the game, now that you have won, you've made history, you're doing all of these things, how do you feel about your win? Like, how do you feel about the game that you played? Because a lot of people do have differing opinions. So I want to know, like, how do you feel about the job that you did?
What I can say is I'm as proud of my game as I could be. I'm a new fan to this show. So I wasn't heading into the house with like a plethora of knowledge about, you know, social games and how to leverage relationships and what to expect with comps. Like, even down to the comps in the final stretch of the game, I'm talking to Daniel C. I'm like, yo, what am I gonna expect? What's like step one of the final situation? I don't know these things, so I'm literally learning as I'm going. You know, I just know that I'm a strong social player in a one-on-one setting. I'm a strong physical player, but I know that I'm smart too. And I think that people overlook that about me. They just thought, oh, he's just a strong player, like physically. But I beat Daniel C. and Claudia in a trivia. And it wasn't just, I didn't just beat them. The game had to get cut early because I was so far ahead. It was 7 questions. We only made it to 6 because I didn't get one wrong. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think people heavily overlook the entirety of my game because of just certain aspects that they're getting tunnel vision on. And I think it's kind of unfair when you're judging me. But nonetheless, like, yeah, I'm proud of the game I played. I did the best I could with what I knew and with what I had, given the circumstances that, you know, I don't think that whole letter situation has ever happened in BBCAN history.
No.
I don't think like anything like that has happened, right? So like, I had to adapt, and I did. So if anybody tries to take that away from me, then they're just plain out hating. They just don't want to see someone like me represent the show, and that's on them. That says more about them and who they are than it says about me, you know?
Period. Exactly. Yeah. And like, since you said earlier, you mentioned like you did want to get some charity towards like mental health. So I did want to ask you, because in the game, this is a really hard game. This is a really, really difficult game. You're in there with no entertainment, nothing, just these other people for months and months and months. So I did want to ask you, like, now that the season is over, now that the game's over, mentally, like mental health wise, how was it? Like, was it stressful? What is the decompression like? I don't know. It's just...
So for me, I've been through a lot in my life. So like, even being in the house, like, it wasn't too stressful for me. I was in stressful situations where it's like my game's on the line, but I wasn't in there having mental breakdowns or anything. I cried twice in that house, when Zach left and then when Koozie left. And that was simply because of what those people meant to me on a personal level, right? It wasn't like, oh, my whole life's about to end. You know what I mean? I'm super resilient. Whether it's it's healthy or not for me to like keep my emotions intact. I can't really say I don't want to, judge myself off of that. But nonetheless, I feel like I do handle stress well. Even now, being outside of the game, I'm transitioning well into the world. Probably partially because I won the show, so I have nothing to be upset about. But at the same time, like I said, I already saw myself past the game already. So I was already excited to be out of the house, whether I won or not, because I knew the opportunities that would open up. I knew that the end of the show was not the end of Ty. You know what I mean? It was just the opening to something new. So I'm in a great mental space right now, but I do know that some of the house guests are having a tough transition back into regular life. So we're just all trying to be there for each other. And I know that our journey in the house is over, but like our journey in life has just begun. So we're all going to be there for each other. I tell these guys regularly that, I always got their back if they need anything. My phone's always available if they want to call me or FaceTime me and just talk. Because like I don't like seeing people go through stuff. And I see all the messages being sent to me and like the negativity, but like it doesn't faze me. But I know that other house guests are really taking it to heart, and I hate that for them because nobody deserves that. You know what I mean? So yeah, mental health is super important. Thankfully, I have a pretty tough skin, but I know that not everybody has, my type of resiliency, and I want to make sure that I'm aware of that, and I'm there for the people that are going through their tough time because you all deserve to be looked after and cared for.
Exactly. I did want to ask a little bit about the relationship with Koozie because we love Koozie over here, of course. And watching y'all on TV, the digital daily, is like this brother or sisterhood y'all kind of had. Like, can you guys speak a little bit more about that? Because I did see like the post you guys shouted each other out and things like that.
Yeah. Koozie is my girl. She'll always be my sister, but obviously, she see me as a big target and somebody that was detrimental to her game.
She was on that ass. She was after you.
That's the thing. I know everybody was after me, so it's not even like I can just pinpoint it on Koozie, but nonetheless, she played an amazing game. I have so much respect for her on a personal level and a game level. She put a lot of fear in people. So it's like even when she was on a block and I was trying to help her fight to keep her in, I think one of the biggest reasons why she wasn't able to flip people is because they were scared what me and her could do together.
Yeah,
so it goes to speak to what kind of player she was because they were scared. I remember Renee was just like, Ty, I don't know. I'm just nervous that if I keep Koozie that you guys might mend a relationship, not realizing that we already had a great relationship, right? So, on a personal level, like I love that girl to death. I think we'll be friends for a very, very long time. But even someone like her, you know what I mean? I think she played a great game, but she's getting a lot of, negative messages. Yeah, I'm trying to help her. But I think everybody's doing that. Like, nobody can play a perfect game. Nobody can make everybody happy.
Somebody's gonna be mad.
Yeah,
the most lovable guy, you know what I mean? People are criticizing him for, giving me his vote over Claudia simply because of the East Coast connection. I'm like, how are you going to hold somebody, accountable for giving me a vote simply because they're from the same coast as somebody? You know what I mean? Like now we're not looking at the game objectively anymore. You're looking at it from personal. And I don't like, as a real fan, you shouldn't want personal feelings to dictate who represents a season. We're looking at who's the best player to represent a season, not personal. So Johnny has all my love and respect. And, I appreciate that he was able to see past the Rob situation, which I know he was obviously upset about, and see me as a player and not just like another guy standing beside his East Coast connection.
Yeah, exactly. Because he was the one though I was scared about. Every jury thing we got, Jonathan was giving bitter. I was like,
he got influence. Like he has influence. Like he had the chant. Like low key, if he was like, man, I just ain't doing it. He could have been like, I ain't doing it. And 3 other people were like, all right.
Of course. Yeah, no, I haven't watched the jury on table yet, but from what I hear, Koozie was going hard for me. So if that's the case, then I got to salute her for doing that for me because we had a great. When she was leaving the house, I think we really got close. You know what I mean? Just just the respect level on a personal level. And again, to speak to my social game, I didn't go over this in my final plea because I didn't want to go over time. But like, she had rehearsed her final speech to me just to see what my thoughts were, and I'm like, amazing. But I need you to do something for me. There's one line I need you to add into this because it's going to sway a lot of people. So when she said something along the lines of, sometimes the people who you think are the biggest threat to your game can be better for your game than who you think are your friends, or something along those lines.
Right.
That was actually me. I pieced that in there. I said, I need you to say that. And then so she said that. And then when she was walking on hugging everybody, she actually went to Renee and said, work with Ty. She went to Anika and said, work with Ty. So she was planting the seeds that I needed, which ultimately led into the double. And now Renee is gunning to keep me safe, which kept me off. So people are not seeing the calculated moves that I was making. When someone knows that they're getting evicted, people let their guards down. Koozie, personal feelings are out the window. She's just like, I have to accept my fate. So I'm just going to be as real and as genuine as possible. And obviously Renee, Anika, everybody knows that Koozie's gone. So now they're just willing to listen to whatever she says because, why would she lie to them? There's no point. She's going to jury anyways, right? So I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity for me to attack this window where people are very vulnerable and very, easily swayed. So I said, Koozie, this is what I need you to do for me. And boom, it kept me off the block, saved Anika, kept me off the block the next week to save Claudia. And people will never understand that. So I was thinking 10 steps ahead of everybody in that one.
Exactly. It's good. And it's good to like do these interviews because then you can explain this. No one knew you were doing that. No one knew you were thinking that way. So I'm glad that you're explaining it right now. And well, I don't know if you knew this, Ty, but a lot of people felt like this season was going to be AllStars. We thought like going in, it was going to be AllStars and that we were going to be seeing returning players, but it wasn't. And we got you, and you won. So
there you go.
If it's next season, what you think? How do you feel about like any reality TV, even if it's not Big Brother or if it's AllStars? How do you feel about AllStars?
I would love to play in AllStars, but I don't know if they would bring back a winner. Have they done that before?
Shit, all the time. They don't give a damn.
They've only in Canada. They've only done one returning season.
Yeah, exactly.
Half returning, and I don't think any of those people were winners. So
they weren't.
Yeah.
If it's AllStars, they might. I would assume they should. I mean,
well, I told them. I said, listen, man, if somebody breaks my record, you better bring me back because I got to take it back again. Like in terms of wins. But AllStars, yeah. I mean, I would jump at the opportunity to come back for AllStars because I think I would be able to play a totally different game. I think people would want to play the game with me early. It might take a little bit of work because people will obviously see me as a threat, but I think I could leverage that to start building some relationships with people who might want protection, and that could help me on the social side of stuff and start creating alliances because that's what I lacked in this game. I lacked alliances because my alliance fell apart very early in the game. So it's very much a lonesome game for me.
Right. And hopefully, it'll be you and Koozie in the AllStars final two.
Oh man, I would have loved that.
We needed this season. Like,
I would have loved that.
That would have been an all-time final two.
I know, I would have loved that for sure.
Great result either way.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, shoot. Was there anything else that you felt like you wanted to say? You wanted to tell the people watching, in general, about just you?
Me.
Great game.
My final speech was just kind of highlighting the fact that people have judged me my entire life off of how I've dressed, how I talk, where I come from, and I think that the comments that I'm seeing about who I am and as a person just speaks to that people judge me before actually getting to know me. They're judging me off of a very small spectacle of what the show is deciding to show them without knowing who I am in real life. So I want to say thank you to all the haters for, fueling me throughout my endeavors in the Big Brother house and ultimately, giving me this win because I love the hate. I love being doubted. But apart from that, I just want people to realize we're on reality TV, but everybody is a human being at the end of the day. So before you're, posting your comments and sending these negative messages, understand that these people have mothers, they have sisters, they have brothers, they have cousins, nieces, nephews. And by you sending that message, you don't know what that person is going through. This stuff is not easy on us, but it's not easy once you get back into the real world and we're transitioning back. So I just ask people to be kind and think before you post, think before you send messages. We're humans. So just please be aware of that and think before you post.
Yes, sir.
Period.
And Ty, where can people find you? Social media in the future? Shout yourself out.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Tys Mcdonald, McDonald. That's where I spend most of my time, but I'm going to start getting into TikTok and all that stuff soon. So I'll probably have a similar handle, but find me on Instagram and then you'll find the rest of the stuff from there for sure.
All right. And follow us at T Reality Kingdom. Make sure y'all subscribe. Thank you so much, Ty, for joining us. And
we really appreciate it. We really
appreciate you guys. Thank you for the love. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. And we out.